The stars stretched endlessly before the ecliptica, their cold, unfeeling light a stark contrast to the chaos the crew had left behind. Dr. Elena Carter sat alone in the observation deck, her eyes locked on the holographic map of the forgotten galaxy. Lines and dots marked the system, but her focus was on a single planet glowing faintly at the center. The planet they had saved, for now. Her hand hovered over the console, replaying the last transmission from the core. The machine's voice still haunted her. The abyss is not gone. It is merely dormant. You have breached its veil. Now it will come for you. A chill ran down her spine. Dormant wasn't the same as defeated, and if the abyss wasn't contained, their fight had only begun. Can't sleep either? Kane's voice broke through the silence. He leaned in the doorway, his posture casual, but the dark circles under his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. Elena offered a weak smile. It's hard to sleep when you know a planet-sized death machine might still be watching. Kane walked over, his heavy boots echoing softly in the room. You did everything you could down there, Carter. More than any of us thought possible. But was it enough? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The abyss isn't just some ancient artifact. It's alive, Kane. It knows we're here. And if it tries anything, we'll deal with it, he said firmly, but even he couldn't mask the uncertainty in his tone. On the bridge, Zarateka and Yates were locked in a heated debate. The ship's central AI, Helios, flickered on the main screen, its calm synthetic voice cutting through their argument. Analysis of planetary data is incomplete, Helios said. However, energy fluctuations in the core suggest residual activity. Residual activity? Zara said, exasperated. That's a polite way of saying giant ticking time bomb. Yates crossed his arms. We stabilized it. The energy levels are manageable. Isn't that what the core wanted? For now, Helios replied. Long-term stability cannot be guaranteed. What about the link to the rest of the galaxy? Elena asked as she entered the bridge. Have you detected any changes? Helios shifted the display to show energy readings across the star system. The link remains active. However, unusual fluctuations have been detected in neighboring systems. These disruptions may be linked to the abyss. Neighboring systems? Kane asked, stepping forward. You're saying the abyss's influence is spreading? Correct, Helios replied. The link appears to amplify its reach. Zara groaned, throwing up her hands. Great, we didn't just poke the bear, we gave it a megaphone. Elena's stomach churned as she studied the data. The abyss wasn't just a threat to the planet they had left behind, it was spreading, and the consequences could be catastrophic. We need to investigate these disruptions, she said firmly. If the abyss is affecting other systems, we can't just sit here and wait for it to come to us. Agreed, Kane said, his voice steady. Helios, plot a course to the nearest system showing fluctuations. Let's find out what we're dealing with. As the ship's engines powered up, Yates hesitated. What if it's a trap? The abyss might be baiting us. Maybe, Elena said. But if we don't act, the entire galaxy could be at risk. The first system on their path was a dead zone, an abandoned colony world orbiting a dying star. The ecliptica dropped out of hyperspace, its scanners immediately lighting up with anomalies. The planet below was cracked and desolate, its surface dotted with crystalline structures similar to those they had encountered before. This place is a graveyard, Zara muttered, staring at the readouts. Why would the abyss bother with it? Maybe it didn't, Yates said. These formations look old, like they've been here for centuries. Elena frowned. Helios, any signs of activity? Eni, RGY signatures detected, Helios replied. Localized to a single structure on the planet's surface. Kane's jaw tightened. Looks like we're going down. The descent to the planet was uneventful, but the surface was anything but. The air was thick with dust, and the ground crunched beneath their boots as the team moved cautiously toward the structure. It was massive, a spire of steel and crystal jutting into the sky like a frozen lightning bolt. This architecture. Elena trailed off, running her fingers along the surface. It's similar to the core we found, but older, cruder. Like a prototype, Zara said, her scanner beeping furiously, and it's still active. The team stepped inside, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous interior. The walls glowed faintly, their crystalline veins pulsating with a steady rhythm. Helios, what's the source of the energy? Kane asked. Analyzing, Helios replied. The energy appears to originate from a central chamber. They followed the glowing veins deeper into the structure, the air growing colder with every step. The chamber they entered was eerily familiar, a smaller version of the core chamber on the previous planet. But this one was damaged, its conduits cracked and leaking energy. "What happened here?" Yates asked, his voice hushed. "Something broke it," Elena said, studying the fractures. "Or someone." As she examined the core, a sudden sound echoed through the chamber, a low, guttural hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Tell me that's just the wind," Zara said, her voice shaking. "It's not the wind," Kane muttered, raising his rifle. The hum grew louder, and the ground began to tremble. From the shadows, a figure emerged, humanoid but twisted, its body encased in jagged crystalline growths. Its glowing eyes burned with an unnatural light. Elena's breath caught. "It's one of them." "A descendant." "No," the figure said, its voice a guttural rasp. "I am more." The team froze as the figure stepped closer, its movements unnervingly fluid. The crystalline growths on its body shimmered, feeding off the energy in the chamber. "What do you want?" Kane demanded, his weapon trained on the figure. The figure tilted its head, its glowing eyes locking onto Elena. "You opened the abyss. Now it cannot be closed." Before anyone could react, the chamber shook violently, and the core flared to life. The team scrambled for cover as tendrils of energy lashed out, ripping through the walls. Elena's mind raced. The abyss wasn't just spreading, it was creating something new. And this time, they were standing in the middle of its proving ground. The chamber crackled with raw energy as the crystalline figure advanced. Its movements were erratic, yet deliberate, like a predator testing its prey. The tendrils of light that lashed out from the fractured core illuminated its jagged form, casting haunting shadows across the walls. "Stay back!" Captain Kane shouted, his rifle trained on the figure. The creature paused, tilting its head as if amused. "You think your weapons will stop me? I am the first of the Abyss's children, and you are trespassers." Elena Carter's heart pounded as she crouched behind a broken conduit. The figure wasn't just a descendant, it was something more, a hybrid of humanity, crystal, and the Abyss's corrupting influence. Its presence filled the room with a suffocating weight, as if the Abyss itself were watching through its eyes. "We don't want to fight," Elena said, stepping out from her cover with trembling hands. "We came here to understand, to stop what's happening before it spreads." The figure's glowing eyes flickered, its crystalline limbs twitching. "Stop? You cannot stop what has already begun. The Abyss will reclaim what was stolen, and it will start with you." The figure lunged, moving faster than any of them expected. Kane fired, his plasma rounds striking the crystalline body, but doing little more than chipping away at its surface. Zarateka unleashed a blast from her disruptor, the beam slicing through one of the creature's arms, but it barely slowed. "Fall back!" Kane shouted, covering the team as they scrambled toward the chamber's exit. Elena stumbled, her thoughts racing. This wasn't just an attack, it was a test. The Abyss was probing them, gauging their strength. But why? And what did it mean by reclaim? The ground shook violently, and a surge of energy erupted from the core, blocking their escape route. Tendrils of light whipped across the room, sealing the team inside with the creature. "Great," Zara shouted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Now we're trapped in here with it." "Keep it busy," Kane barked, firing another volley. "Carter, can you shut that core down?" Elena's mind raced as she scanned the chamber, her eyes locking onto a nearby control panel. "Maybe, but I'll need time. We'll give you what we can," Kane said, moving to draw the creature's attention. Elena dashed to the control panel, her fingers flying over the alien interface. The symbols were familiar, yet strange, fragments of the language she had studied on the previous planet. She worked quickly, searching for a way to stabilize the core, or at least neutralize its energy. Behind her, the battle raged. Yates swung a pipe he'd scavenged from the debris, smashing it against the creature's legs to distract it, while Zara fired her disruptor in rapid bursts. The creature roared, its voice a mix of grinding stone and distorted human tones. "You fight in vain. The Abyss has already claimed this world." "Then why are you still here?" Kane shot back, firing another round. The plasma bolt struck the creature's chest, shattering a piece of its crystalline armor. The creature hesitated, as if the question had caught it off guard. Then it turned its glowing eyes toward Elena. "She is the key," it hissed. The abyss sees her. It knows her. Elena froze, the creature's words sending a chill down her spine. What are you talking about? You opened the link, the creature said, its voice low and menacing, and now the abyss flows through you. Elena, keep working, Kane shouted, firing another round to draw the creature's attention back to him. She forced herself to focus, her hands trembling as she entered a series of commands. The core pulsed violently, its light fluctuating as the system resisted her input. Come on, she muttered. Work with me. The control panel emitted a sharp beep, and the tendrils of energy receded slightly. The creature howled, its body trembling as if in pain. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, Zara yelled. I'm trying, Elena shot back. But the system is fighting me. It's like it doesn't want to shut down. The abyss is alive, the creature hissed, its voice filled with rage, and it will not be denied. The ground trembled again, and the chamber's walls began to crack under the strain. Elena glanced over her shoulder, her heart pounding. If she couldn't stabilize the core soon, the entire structure would collapse. With a final desperate push, Elena entered the last command. The core emitted a deafening hum, its light dimming as the energy levels began to drop. The tendrils of light receded, and the creature staggered, its crystalline body flickering. No, it roared, its voice filled with fury and fear. You do not understand. This is only the beginning. Kane didn't wait for it to recover. He charged forward, delivering a powerful blow with the butt of his rifle that sent the creature crashing to the ground. Now's our chance, he shouted. Move. The team sprinted toward the exit as the core stabilized, its light dimming to a faint glow. The crystalline structure groaned, but it held, the tremors subsiding. They emerged onto the surface, gasping for air. The desolate landscape stretched before them, the dying star casting long shadows over the ruins. Back on the Ecliptica, the team gathered in the briefing room, their faces etched with exhaustion. What the hell was that thing? Yates asked, breaking the silence. A fragment of the abyss, Elena said, her voice quiet. A piece of its influence, testing us. And what did it mean about you being the key? Kane asked, his gaze sharp. I don't know, she admitted, but I think the abyss is trying to communicate, and it's using me to do it. Zara frowned. Communicate? It just tried to kill us. It's more than just a mindless force, Elena said. It's alive, and it's angry. Kane leaned forward, his voice low and steady. Then we need to figure out what it wants, and how to stop it, because if this is just the beginning, we're in for a fight we might not win. Elena nodded, the weight of the abyss's words heavy on her mind. The breach wasn't just a crack in the galaxy's defenses, it was an open door. And something was waiting on the other side. The low hum of the Ecliptica's engines filled the briefing room as the team pored over the data collected from the ruined planet. A holographic projection of the fractured core spun in midair, its crystalline conduits glowing faintly. Dr. Elena Carter stared at the display, her mind racing with unanswered questions. This isn't just spreading, it's evolving, Elena said, her voice steady but tense. The abyss is adapting, using the energy from the core to create something entirely new. That thing we faced down there wasn't just a one-off, Captain Kane said, crossing his arms. It called itself a child of the abyss. How many more are out there? Too many, Zarateka muttered, running a hand through her disheveled hair. If that core was linked to others like it, the abyss could have its claws in half this galaxy by now. Yates leaned back in his chair, his jaw tight. We stabilized one core, but it doesn't feel like a win. That thing said the abyss knows Carter. Why her? Elena looked down, the weight of the question heavy on her shoulders. I don't know, she admitted. But the abyss isn't just a threat to this galaxy, it's personal. Helios's calm voice broke through the silence. Incoming anomaly detected, energy fluctuations consistent with abyssal activity. Origin, the Typhera system. Kane straightened, his eyes narrowing. How far? 3 light years. Helios replied. Navigational systems are plotting a course. Elena frowned, her mind racing. The Typhera system was colonized centuries ago. If the abyss has reached it, then we're already too late, Zara finished grimly. But we can't just sit here. Kane nodded. Helios, set a course for Typhera. Let's see what we're dealing with. The journey to Typhera was brief but tense. The team gathered in the observation deck as the ship dropped out of hyperspace, revealing the system's central star. Its light was dim, casting the surrounding planets in an eerie twilight. The largest planet, Typhera Prime, loomed ahead, its surface veiled by thick, swirling clouds. Scans indicate significant energy fluctuations on the planet's surface, Helios reported. Source appears to be a massive crystalline structure. Another core? Yates asked. Unclear, Helios replied. Energy patterns are unlike those encountered previously. Elena's stomach churned as she stared at the planet. Whatever it is, it's not just another core. This feels different. Different how? Kane asked. More intentional, she said softly. The abyss isn't just corrupting this world, it's shaping it. The descent to Typhera Prime was rough. The planet's atmosphere was turbulent, buffeting the ecliptica as it navigated toward the energy source. The ship's scanners painted a grim picture. The surface was littered with crystalline growths, spreading outward from a massive spire that pierced the clouds like a spear. This place is worse than the last one, Zara muttered as the ship touched down on a rocky plateau overlooking the spire. The team disembarked cautiously, their boots crunching on the jagged terrain. The air was thick and heavy, carrying a faint metallic tang that set their nerves on edge. Helios, keep scanning, Kane said, his rifle at the ready. We don't want any surprises. The spire loomed in the distance, its crystalline surface pulsing with an ominous light. As the team approached, Elena felt a strange pull, like an invisible thread drawing her closer. It's watching us, she murmured. What is? Yates asked, glancing around nervously. The abyss, she said. I can feel it. It knows we're here. Inside the spire, the air was colder, the walls glowing faintly with the same eerie light. The structure was massive, its interior lined with conduits that seemed to hum with life. The team moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready. This place feels more deliberate, Elena said, her voice echoing in the vast chamber, like it was built for a purpose. Not just ilt, Zara said, scanning one of the conduits. Groan. These crystals aren't just a side effect, they're part of the design. The team entered a central chamber, its ceiling soaring high above them. At its center was a massive crystalline sphere, suspended in midair and pulsing with light. Tendrils of energy snaked out from it, connecting to the walls and floor like roots feeding a tree. That's new, Yates muttered. What the hell is that? Elena stepped closer, her breath catching. It's not a core, it's something else. The sphere flared brightly, and a voice filled the chamber, a deep, resonant tone that sent shivers down their spines. You have come far, but you will not go further. The sphere's surface rippled, and figures began to emerge from the surrounding walls, humanoid forms encased in crystal, their glowing eyes fixed on the team. More of them, Kane growled, raising his rifle. Defensive positions. The constructs moved in unison, their movements fluid and unnervingly fast. Kane and Yates opened fire, plasma rounds slicing through the air, but the constructs were relentless. Carter, we need options, Kane shouted as he blasted one of the constructs into shards. Elena's eyes darted between the sphere and the surrounding conduits. The sphere, it's controlling them. If we can disrupt its energy flow, then do it, Kane yelled, covering her as she sprinted toward the nearest conduit. Elena worked quickly, her hands trembling as she accessed the conduit's interface. The symbols were familiar, but far more complex than anything she had encountered before. The system resisted her input, its defenses rising like a wall. Come on, she muttered, sweat dripping down her brow. Let me in. The constructs closed in, forcing the team to retreat toward the chamber's edges. Zara fired her disruptor in rapid bursts, but the constructs adapted, their crystalline forms absorbing the energy. We're not going to last much longer, Yates shouted. Elena's fingers flew across the controls, her heart racing. The interface finally responded, and the sphere's light flickered. The constructs froze for a moment, their movements halting as the energy flow wavered. It's working, Zara yelled, but the victory was short-lived. The sphere flared brighter, and the constructs surged forward, their attacks more coordinated and aggressive. Elena gritted her teeth, pushing the system further. The symbols on the interface shifted, forming a pattern she recognized. A message. The abyss is infinite. You cannot contain it. She ignored the warning, entering the final sequence. The sphere pulsed violently, its light dimming as the energy flow collapsed. The constructs shattered, their forms crumbling to the ground. The team stood in stunned silence, the chamber eerily quiet. Elena collapsed to her knees, her body trembling from exhaustion. On the surface, the team regrouped near the ecliptica, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. "What the hell was that thing?" Yates asked, his voice shaking. "A beacon," Elena said, her voice hollow. "The abyss isn't just spreading. It's calling out to something." "Calling to what?" Kane demanded. Elena looked back at the spire, its light fading into the planet's dying twilight. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's coming." The faint glow of Typhera's dying sun reflected off the ecliptica as the ship ascended from the planet's surface, its engines humming steadily. Inside, the atmosphere was anything but calm. The team gathered in the briefing room, exhaustion etched into their faces. Dr. Elena Carter paced back and forth, her thoughts racing. The constructs, the beacon-like sphere, and the cryptic message from the abyss, it all pointed to something far larger and far deadlier than they had anticipated. "You said it was calling out," Captain Kane said, his voice steady but tense. "Calling to what?" Elena stopped, her gaze fixed on the holographic projection of the spire. "It's not just spreading its influence. The abyss is reaching for something out there in the galaxy." "Something worse than the abyss?" Yates asked, his tone dripping with disbelief. "That's not exactly comforting." "It's not worse," Elena said, her voice low. "It's connected. The abyss isn't just some rogue entity. It's part of a larger system, and whatever it's calling to, it's waking up." Helios interrupted with its calm, measured tone. "Analysis of the spire's energy signature reveals a repeating transmission pattern. The signal's frequency aligns with data from the stabilized core on the previous planet." Zarateca frowned, tapping rapidly on her tablet. "You're saying it's the same signal? Like they're linked?" "Correct," Helios replied. "The signal appears to be propagating through the network established by the abyss. And now the network is spreading," Elena said. "It's using the cores to amplify its reach." Kane leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Helios, can you trace the signal? Find out where it's going?" "Affirmative," Helios said. "Triangulating origin and destination. Estimated coordinates indicate a system on the galaxy's outer rim. Designation, Ancaris Prime." The name sent a ripple of unease through the room. Ancaris Prime was a forgotten system, abandoned centuries ago after a failed colonization attempt. Reports from the time spoke of strange phenomena, unstable weather, inexplicable machinery failures, and whispers of things in the dark. "Of course it's Ancaris," Yates muttered. "Why wouldn't it be?" "We don't have a choice," Kane said. "If that's where the signal is leading, we follow it." Elena nodded, though the pit in her stomach grew heavier. "The abyss is accelerating. If we don't stop it now, we might not get another chance." "Helios," Kane said, standing. "Set a course for Ancaris Prime." The journey to Ancaris was longer than expected. The system's remoteness forced the ecliptica to take a circuitous route, navigating the edges of unexplored space. As they traveled, the team prepared for the unknown, their nerves fraying with each passing hour. Zara spent most of her time in the engine room, tweaking the ship's systems to handle whatever anomalies they might face. Yates double-checked their weapons, his normally calm demeanor cracking under the strain. Kane moved through the ship like a restless shadow, his mind churning with contingency plans. Elena, meanwhile, immersed herself in the data. The signal's pattern was unlike anything she had seen before, a complex web of frequencies and pulses that seemed to defy logic. Yet beneath the chaos, there was a structure, a purpose. "It's like a code," she murmured to herself, her fingers flying across the console. "But it's not meant for us. It's meant for something else." When the ecliptica finally arrived at Ancaris Prime, the sight that greeted them was both breathtaking and ominous. The planet was shrouded in swirling clouds of iridescent light, the atmosphere glowing with an unnatural luminescence. Massive crystalline structures jutted from the surface, their sharp edges glinting like broken glass. "Scanners are picking up massive energy readings," Helios reported. "The entire planet is saturated with abyssal activity." "This place looks like it's already lost," Yates said, staring out the viewport. "It's not lost," Elena said, her voice quiet. "It's the source." "The source of what?" Kane asked. She turned to him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. "Everything. The abyss, the cores, the network. It all started here." The ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, the turbulence rocking them violently. The glowing clouds seemed to part for them, revealing a massive chasm on the planet's surface. At its center was a structure unlike anything they had encountered before, a colossal crystalline spire that seemed to pierce the sky. "This isn't just a core," Zara said, her voice hushed. "It's a nexus." "A nexus for what?" Kane asked. "For the abyss," Elena said. "This is where it began. And if we're going to stop it, this is where we have to end it." The landing was rough, the ship shuddering as it touched down on a jagged plateau near the chasm. The team stepped out cautiously, the air thick with an oppressive energy that made every breath feel heavy. The spire loomed ahead, its crystalline surface glowing with a pulse that seemed to match the beating of a heart. Tendrils of light snaked out from its base, connecting to the surrounding landscape like veins feeding a living organism. "Helios, keep the ship on standby," Kane said. "We might need a fast exit." The team advanced slowly, their weapons at the ready. The ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with energy, a constant reminder of the abyss's presence. As they approached the spire, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was humanoid but twisted, its body encased in jagged crystal and its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Not again," Yates muttered, raising his rifle. The figure stepped forward, its movements unnervingly fluid. When it spoke, its voice was a deep, resonant growl that sent shivers down their spines. "You have come far, but you are too late. The abyss has already claimed this world, and now it will claim you." The team braced themselves as the figure raised its arms, the ground trembling beneath them. From the chasm, more figures began to emerge, their crystalline bodies shimmering with the abyss's corrupted energy. "This was a bad idea," Zara shouted. "No," Elena said, stepping forward. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "This is exactly where we need to be." The figure's glowing eyes locked onto hers. "Then prove your worth." The ground cracked, and the abyss roared to life. The crystalline landscape shimmered as the crew of the Ecliptica ventured deeper into the settlement. The alien figures watched from the shadows, their glowing eyes following every move. Dr. Elena Carter couldn't shake the weight of their stares, or their words. The machine that started all of this. What had humanity created here, and why had they left it behind? "Still think this is a good idea?" Zarateca muttered as she adjusted her scanner, the device emitting a steady stream of clicks and beeps. "Because I'm voting for a swift exit." "We don't have a choice," Elena replied, stepping carefully over a cluster of crystalline roots that pulsed faintly beneath her boots. "If we leave now, the entire planet could collapse." Captain Kane led the group, his rifle at the ready. His eyes darted between the towering structures and the alien watchers. "Let's keep moving. We don't know how long we have before another protector shows up." The towering crystal at the edge of the settlement loomed like a sentinel, its jagged spires reaching toward the sky. At its base, a massive fissure split the ground, emanating a faint, rhythmic hum. Elena knelt beside the fissure, her heart racing as she examined the crystalline edges. "It's almost like a gateway," she murmured. "It's not just the surface," Yates said, crouching beside her. His scanner displayed a dizzying array of readings. "This formation runs deep, like a network. Whatever's down there, it's connected to the entire planet." "Helios," Kane said into his comm, "any intel on what's below us?" "Scans are incomplete due to interference," the AI replied. "However, energy readings indicate the presence of a large artificial structure approximately 3 kilometers below the surface." 3 kilometers? Zara groaned. "Great, guess we didn't pack the elevator." The tall figure from the settlement approached, its crystalline body catching the light in a dazzling display. "The way forward lies through the heart of the crystal. The machine will not welcome you." "What kind of machine are we talking about?" Kane demanded. "Is it another one of those protectors?" The figure's glowing eyes flickered. "The protector was a guardian. The machine is its creator." The team stood before the fissure, the rhythmic hum growing louder. Elena felt the vibration in her chest, a pulsing rhythm that seemed almost alive. "There's an access point here," Zara said, pointing to a section of the crystal that shimmered differently. She ran her scanner over it, revealing a faint outline of what appeared to be a doorway. "How do we open it?" Kane asked. The alien figure stepped forward, placing its crystalline hand against the surface. The doorway groaned, a grinding sound reverberating through the air as it slid open, revealing a dark tunnel that descended into the planet's depths. Elena glanced at the figure. "Why are you helping us?" The figure tilted its head. "We cannot stop the machine. But perhaps you can." The descent was treacherous. The tunnel walls glowed faintly with crystalline veins, providing just enough light to see the jagged path ahead. The hum grew louder with every step, a low, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the very bones of the planet. "This is madness," Zara muttered, gripping her tablet tightly. "We're walking straight into the lion's den." "And if we don't," Yates countered. "We let the planet die? We let them die?" "Quiet," Kane snapped. "We're here to finish this. Focus." The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, the air thick with energy. At the center of the chamber stood a monolithic structure. Its surface a chaotic blend of steel and crystal. Massive conduits snaked out from its base, connecting to the glowing veins that ran through the cavern walls. Elena's breath caught. This is it. The machine was a masterpiece of alien engineering, yet distinctly human in its foundation. Its design bore the unmistakable hallmarks of early colonization, ion technology, but it had been altered, corrupted by the planet's crystalline growths. "Helios," Kane said, his voice tense. "What are we looking at?" "Structure appears to be a terraforming core," the AI replied. "Design suggests it was built to transform the planet's environment. However, it has been heavily modified." "Modified by who?" Yates asked. "By the planet," Elena whispered. "It's like the crystals merged with the technology, creating something new." "Let's not admire it too much," Zara said, her scanner flashing red. "This thing is putting out enough energy to blow the entire planet apart." As the team approached the machine, a deep rumble echoed through the cavern. The conduits pulsed and the hum intensified. The monolith began to glow, its crystalline surface shifting and rippling like liquid. "Something's happening," Kane said, raising his rifle. Elena stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the machine. "It's reacting to us." Suddenly, a section of the machine split open, revealing a spherical core suspended in the air. The core pulsed with light, emitting a low, resonant tone that seemed to resonate with the crystals. "Helios, analyze that core," Kane ordered. "Analyzing." "Core appears to be a quantum AI interface," Helios replied. "Its function is unclear, but it is the source of the planet-wide energy network." "Can we shut it down?" Kane asked. "Negative," Helios said. "Direct interference could destabilize the network." Before they could react, the cavern shook violently. From the shadows, crystalline figures began to emerge, smaller versions of the Protector, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. "We've got company," Yates shouted, drawing his weapon. Kane fired the first shot, his plasma rifle lighting up the cavern. The constructs moved with frightening speed, their crystalline bodies reflecting the weapon's blasts. Zara ducked behind a boulder, frantically typing on her tablet. "We need to overload the core," she shouted. "It's the only way to stop this." "Overload it how?" Kane demanded. "I can rig a feedback loop through the conduits," Zara said, her fingers flying across the screen. "But it's going to blow the whole cavern, and us with it." Elena's mind raced. What if we don't destroy it? What if we try to interface with it? "Are you insane?" Zara yelled. "This thing is trying to kill us." "Or protect itself," Elena countered. "If we can communicate with it, maybe we can shut it down without destroying everything." The constructs closed in, their crystalline limbs gleaming in the dim light. Kane made a decision. "Do it, Carter. But if this goes south, I'm pulling the plug." Elena stepped toward the core, her heart pounding. She raised her hand, the light from the core enveloping her as she reached out to touch its surface. For a moment, everything was silent. And then the machine spoke. "Human interface detected. Accessing." The cavern filled with light as the machine's voice boomed. "State your purpose." Elena's voice trembled, but she stood her ground. "To save this planet and its people." The light dimmed, and the constructs froze. The machine seemed to consider her words. Then, in a voice both alien and familiar, it replied, "Then prove your worth." The chamber began to shift, and Elena realized this was only the beginning.